William sat in the hospital waiting room, staring at the white walls around him. His hands were shaking, and he could not stop them. Kate was beside him on the hard plastic chair. Her face was pale, and she looked like she had not slept in days. Their 7-year-old son, Louis, was somewhere behind those double doors, and they did not know. What was wrong with him? It had started 3 weeks ago. Louis came home from school complaining about a headache. Kate gave him some medicine and thought it would go away. The headaches kept coming back. Every day, Louis would hold his head and say it hurt. Then he started getting dizzy. Sometimes he would be walking and suddenly stop because the room was spinning around him. William remembered the morning when everything changed. Louis was eating breakfast, and suddenly he dropped his spoon, put both hands on his head, and started crying. Kate rushed to him and asked what was wrong. Louis said his head felt like it was going to explode. That was when Kate looked at William with fear. In her eyes, they called the doctor right away. The doctor said to bring Louis in immediately. William drove as fast as he could while Kate held Louis in the back seat. The boy was so pale and quiet. Usually Louis was full of energy and talked all the time. That day he just lay against his mother and closed his eyes. The doctor at their local clinic took one look at Louis and said they needed to go to the hospital. He said Louis needed special tests that only the hospital could do. William felt his heart drop when he heard those words. Kate started crying quietly, but tried to hide it from Louis. The drive to the hospital felt like the longest drive of William's life. Kate kept looking back at Louis, who was sleeping now. She whispered to William that something was very wrong. William did not want to believe it, but he knew she was right. Healthy children did not get headaches like this. When they got to the hospital, the nurses took Louis away quickly. Doctor came to talk to William and Kate. She had gray hair and kind eyes. She said her name was Dr. Martinez, and she was going to take care of Louis. She asked them many questions about when the headaches started and how bad they were. Dr. Martinez explained that Louis needed tests to find out what was causing his headaches. She said they would do blood tests and brain scans. William felt sick when he heard the words brain scans. Kate grabbed his hand and squeezed it tight. The doctor said they would have to wait for the results. That was 3 days ago. Since then, William and Kate had been living in this waiting room. They went home only to shower and get clean clothes. Kate barely ate anything. William tried to make her eat, but she said she was not hungry. They both looked terrible. The waiting room was full of other worried parents. William watched them and saw the same fear in their eyes. There was a woman who had been crying for 2 days. Her baby was very sick. There was a man who paced back and forth all day. His teenage daughter was having surgery. William tried to read magazines, but the words did not make sense. Kate tried to do crossword puzzles, but she could not concentrate. They mostly just sat and waited. Sometimes they talked quietly about Louis. They remembered when he was born and how happy they were. They talked about his first steps and his first words. Louis was their youngest child. Their other children were older and staying with Kate's parents. William was glad they did not have to see their parents so scared. The older children knew Louis was in the hospital, but they did not know how serious it might be. Every few hours a nurse would come and give them updates. She would say Louis was resting comfortably. She would say the doctors were still running tests. But she never said anything that made William and Kate feel better. Not knowing was the worst part. William kept thinking about all the things that could be wrong. He had looked things up on his phone, but that only made him more scared. Kate told him to stop reading about it, but he could not help himself. His mind kept going to the worst possibilities. Kate was handling it differently. She was very quiet and kept to herself. William could see she was thinking all the time. Sometimes she would start to cry and then stop herself. She said she had to be strong for Louis, but William knew she was just as terrified as he was. The hospital smelled like cleaning products and medicine. The lights were too bright and hurt William's eyes. The chairs were uncomfortable and made his back ache, but none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered was Louis getting better. During the day other family members came to visit, William's brother came and sat with them for a while. Kate's sister brought them food that they barely touched. Everyone tried to be hopeful and positive. They said Louis would be fine and that kids bounce back quickly. But William could see the worry in their eyes too, At night, the waiting room got quieter. The lights were dimmed and most people went home, but William and Kate stayed. They took turns sleeping in the chairs. William would watch Kate sleep and see how tired she looked. Her face was stressed even when she was sleeping. Sometimes in the middle of the night, William would walk the halls of the hospital. He would look in the windows of other rooms and see sick children. It made him feel sad and grateful at the same time. Sad for those families, and grateful that Louis was not as sick as some of the other children. The doctors said they would have more information soon. They said the tests took time and they wanted to be thorough. William understood, but the waiting was killing him. He wanted answers even if they were bad answers. The not knowing was worse than knowing something terrible. Kate had started writing in a notebook. She wrote down everything the doctor said. She wrote down what time they gave Louis medicine. She wrote down how he looked when they were allowed to visit him. William thought it was her way of trying to control something when everything felt out of control. 3 days felt like 3 months. William could not remember what life was like before this, could not imagine what life would be like after this. All he could think about was Louis lying in that hospital bed with wires and machines around him. All he could think about was getting his little boy back home where he belonged. The morning of the 4th day, Dr. Martinez came to see them. She had a serious look on her face. She asked them to come with her to her office. William felt his heart start racing. Kate took his hand as they walked down the long hallway. This was the moment they had been waiting for and dreading at the same time. Dr. Martinez closed the door to her office and asked William and Kate to sit down. The room was small, with medical books on the shelves and certificates on the walls. William could feel his heart beating so fast he thought it might jump out of his chest. Kate was squeezing his hand so tight it hurt, but he did not say anything. The doctor sat behind her desk and opened a thick folder with Louis's name on it. She looked at William and Kate with serious eyes. She said the test results had come back and they needed to talk about what they found. William felt like he could not breathe. Kate made a small noise like she was trying not to cry. Dr. Martinez said the brain scans showed something that was not normal. She said there was a shadow in Louis's brain that should not be there. William felt the room start to spin around him. Kate let go of his hand and covered her mouth with both hands. The doctor quickly said they needed to do more tests to find out exactly what it was. She explained that the shadow could be many different things. It could be an infection, or it could be a growth. She said some growths were not dangerous, and some were very dangerous. They would not know which one it was until they did more tests. William asked how long the tests would take. The doctor said at least 1 more week. Kate finally found her voice and asked if Louis was going to die. The doctor said she could not answer that question yet. She said they needed to be patient and wait for more information. But she also said Louis was young and strong, and that was a good thing. William wanted to feel hopeful, but he was too scared. The doctor said they would do a special kind of scan that would show them more details. She said they would also need to take a small sample from Louis' brain to test it. William felt sick when he heard this. Kate started crying and asked if that was dangerous. The doctor said all medical procedures had risks, but this one was usually safe. William asked what they should tell Louis. The doctor said they should tell him the truth, but keep it simple, she said. Children often handle these situations better than adults. She said Louis would need to stay in the hospital for at least another week while they did all the tests. After they left the doctor's office, William and Kate walked back to the waiting room in silence. Neither of them knew what to say. Everything had changed in just a few minutes. Before the meeting, they were worried, but hopeful. Now they were terrified. Kate sat down and put her head in her hands. She said she could not believe this was happening to their family. William sat beside her and put his arm around her. He said they would get through this together. But inside he was falling apart. He kept thinking about the word the doctor used. Shadow. What kind of shadow was growing in his little boy's brain? They were allowed to visit Louis that afternoon. When they walked into his room, he was awake and watching cartoons on the television. He smiled when he saw them and said he was feeling better. The headaches were not as bad because of the medicine they were giving him. William tried to smile back, but it was hard. Kate sat on the edge of the bed and brushed Louis's hair away from his face. She asked him how he was feeling. Louis said he was bored and wanted to go home. He asked when he could see his brother and sister. Kate said soon, but they needed to make sure he was completely better first. Louis asked why he had to stay in the hospital so long. William and Kate looked at each other. They had practiced what they would say, but now the words seemed impossible. Kate took a deep breath and said the doctors found something in his head that was making him sick. She said they needed to do more tests to fix it. Louis asked if it was something bad. William said they did not know yet, but the doctors were very smart and they would take good care of him. Louis seemed to accept this answer. He asked if he could have ice cream for dinner. Kate laughed for the first time in days and said she would ask the nurses. That evening, William called his brother to tell him what the doctor had said. His brother was quiet for a long time. Then he said he was sorry and asked what they needed. William said they just needed prayers and support. His brother said he would tell the rest of the family. Kate called her parents to update them about Louis. She tried to sound calm, but William could hear her voice shaking. Her parents said they would keep taking care of the other children and not to worry about anything at home, said they were praying for Louis every day. The next few days were a blur of medical appointments and waiting. Louis had to go for different scans and tests. Sometimes William and Kate could go with him, and sometimes they had to wait outside. Each time Louis went for a test, they worried it would be the one that gave them bad news. The hospital became their second home. They knew all the nurses by name. They knew which vending machine had the best snacks. They knew which bathroom was the cleanest. They knew which chairs in the waiting room were the most comfortable. These small details became important when everything else felt out of control. William started having trouble sleeping. Even when he was exhausted, he would lie awake thinking about Louis. He would think about all the things they had planned to do together. It's teaching him to ride a bike without training wheels, taking him to his first baseball game, it's helping him with his homework. Would they still be able to do these things? Kate was not eating enough. William would bring her food, but she would only pick at it. She said she was not hungry, but he knew she was too worried to eat. He was worried about her, too. She was losing weight and looked tired all the time. One night, while Kate was sleeping in the chair next to Louis's bed, William went for a walk. He walked through the hospital corridors and ended up in the chapel. He was not very religious, but he needed somewhere quiet to think. He sat in the back row and tried to pray. He prayed for Louis to be okay. He prayed for the doctors to find a way to help him. He prayed for Kate to stay strong. He prayed for their other children who were at home wondering why their parents were gone so much. He prayed for himself to be brave enough to handle whatever was coming. The next morning, Dr. Martinez came to see them again. She said the new tests were complete and they would have results soon. She said they had scheduled the brain biopsy for the following day. William felt his stomach drop. Kate asked more questions about the procedure and what could go wrong. The doctor was honest about the risks, but said they needed to know exactly what they were dealing with. She said the team doing the biopsy was very experienced. She said Louis would be asleep during the whole thing and would not feel any pain. William and Kate would have to sign papers saying they understood the risks. That night they sat beside Louis' bed watching him sleep. He looked so small and peaceful. William could not believe that something was wrong inside his brain. Kate whispered that she was scared about the biopsy. William said he was scared too, but they had to trust the doctors. They had come so far from those first days of simple headaches. Now they were facing procedures and risks they never imagined. Tomorrow would bring them closer to answers, but also closer to news that could change their lives forever. The morning of the biopsy arrived too quickly. Yuma had barely slept at all. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw images of doctors cutting into Louis's head. Kate had not slept either. She kept checking on Louis every few minutes, even though he was sleeping peacefully. At 5 in the morning, the nurses came to prepare Louis for the procedure. They gave him medicine to make him sleepy. Louis was confused and asked why he had to wake up so early. Kate told him the doctors needed to do one more test to make him better. Louis was too drowsy from the medicine to ask more questions. William watched as they wheeled Louis away on a small hospital bed. Louis looked so tiny, surrounded by all the medical equipment. Kate ran alongside the bed holding Louis's hand until they reached the doors to the operating room. The nurse gently told them they could not go any further. Dr. Martinez met them at the doors. She was wearing surgical clothes and had a serious expression. She explained one more time what they were going to do. She said they would make a small hole in Louis's skull and take a tiny piece of tissue to test. The whole procedure would take about 2 hours. William signed the permission papers with a shaking hand. Kate could not stop crying. The doctor said Louis was in good hands and they would take excellent care of him. She said a nurse would come and update them every 30 minutes. Then the doors closed and Louis was gone. William and Kate went back to the waiting room. It was still early and not many people were there yet. They sat in their usual chairs and began the longest wait of their lives. William kept looking at the clock on the wall. Only 5 minutes had passed since they left. Kate was holding a small stuffed bear that Louis had brought from home. She kept squeezing it and smoothing down its fur. William tried to read a magazine, but the words kept jumping around on the page. His mind could not focus on anything except what was happening to his son. After 30 minutes, a nurse came to see them. She said everything was going well, and the doctors were proceeding as planned. William felt a tiny bit of relief, but it did not last long. There was still so much that could go wrong. Kate asked if Louis was awake. The nurse said he was sleeping peacefully and feeling no pain. William's brother David arrived at the hospital. During the first hour, he brought coffee and sandwiches that no one wanted to eat. He sat with them and tried to make conversation, but William and Kate were too worried to talk. David understood and just stayed quiet. Sometimes just having someone there was enough. The second nurse update came right on time. She said the doctors were almost finished, and everything was going according to plan. William felt his shoulders relax a little. Kate asked how much longer it would take. The nurse said probably 30 more minutes and then Louis would go to recovery. Kate's parents arrived just as the procedure was finishing. They'd driven 3 hours to be there. Kate's mother hugged her daughter and said she had been praying all morning. Her father shook William's hand and said Louis was a strong boy and would be fine. William wanted to believe him. Dr. Martinez came out of the operating room looking tired but not worried. She said the biopsy had gone perfectly. Louis had done very well, and there had been no complications. She said they were able to get a good sample of tissue to test. William felt like he could breathe again for the first time in hours. The doctor said Louis would be in recovery for about an hour, and then they could see him. She said he would be sleepy and might have a headache, but that was normal. She said the results from the biopsy would take 3 to 5 days to come back. William nodded, but inside he was already dreading the wait for more results. When they were finally allowed to see Louis, he was awake, but very sleepy. There was a small bandage on his head where they had done the procedure. He looked pale, but he smiled when he saw his parents. Kate rushed to his bedside and gently touched his face. She asked how he was feeling. Louis said his head hurt a little, but not as bad as before. He asked what the doctors had done to him. William explained that they had taken a very small piece from inside his head to test it. Louis touched the bandage and said it felt weird. The nurse said that was normal and it would feel better soon. For the next few hours, Louis slept on and off. William and Kate took turns sitting beside his bed. They were both exhausted but relieved that the procedure was over. Now they had to wait for the results that would tell them what kind of growth was in Louis's brain. Kate started her notebook. Again, she wrote down what time Louis woke up and what he said. She wrote down when the nurses checked on him and what medicines they gave him. William thought. Writing everything down helped her feel like she was doing something useful. The next day, Louis was feeling much better. The headache from the biopsy was gone, and he was asking for his favorite foods. He wanted to know when he could go home. William and Kate explained that they had to wait for the test results first. Louis was getting tired of being in the hospital. Dr. Martinez came to check on Louis every day. She said he was healing well from the biopsy. She said the tissue sample had been sent to several different labs to make sure they got accurate results. Each day, she said the results should come back soon, but they never did. William was getting more anxious as each day passed. He kept thinking about what the different test results could mean. He had stopped looking things up on the internet because it only made him more scared. But he could not stop his mind from imagining the worst possibilities Kate was holding up. Better than William expected. She'd found her strength somehow and was focused on taking care of Louis. She played games with him and read him stories. She made sure he ate his meals and took his medicine. William admired how she could put her own fears aside to be strong for their son. On the third day after the biopsy, William's phone rang. It was Dr. Martinez. She said the preliminary results were in, and she wanted to meet with them that afternoon. William felt his heart start racing again. Kate looked at him with wide eyes and asked what the doctor had said. William told her they had results and needed to meet with the doctor. Kate immediately started crying. She said she was not ready to hear bad news. William held her and said they would face whatever it was together. But inside he was just as terrified as she was. They spent the morning trying to act normal around Louis. They played board games and watched cartoons. But William could see that Kate was struggling. She kept looking at the clock and checking her phone. The meeting with Dr. Martinez was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:30, they kissed Louis goodbye and told him they would be back soon. Louis asked where they were going. Kate said they had to talk to the doctor about his test results. Louis asked if he was going to be okay. William said they hoped so and that they loved him very much. Walking to Dr. Martinez's office felt like walking to their own execution. William could hear his heartbeat in his ears. Kate was breathing fast and her hands were shaking. They were about to learn their son's fate, and there was nothing they could do to change whatever the results showed. Dr. Martinez was already waiting when William and Kate arrived at her office. She had several papers spread out on her desk and her computer was open. William noticed she looked more relaxed than usual. Kate squeezed his hand as they sat down. In the familiar chairs across from the doctor's desk, the doctor looked at them both and took a deep breath. She said she had good news and some challenging news. William felt his stomach drop. Kate leaned forward in her chair. Dr. Martinez said, "The good news was that the growth in Louis's brain was not cancer. It was benign, which meant it was not dangerous in the way they had feared most." William felt tears come to his eyes. Kate started crying and put her hands over her face. The doctor waited for them to process this information. She said she knew how scared they had been, and she was happy to give them this news. But she also said they were not done yet. Dr. Martinez explained that even though the growth was not cancer, it was still causing problems. She said it was pressing against parts of Louis's brain that controlled his balance and caused his headaches. She said the growth was called a benign tumor, and it needed to be removed with surgery. Kate stopped crying and looked up at the doctor. She asked how dangerous the surgery would be. Dr. Martinez said all brain. Surgery had risks, but this type of operation was done successfully many times. She said the surgeon who would do Louis's operation was one of the best in the country. William asked what would happen if they did not do the surgery. The doctor said the tumor would continue to grow and Louis's symptoms would get worse. Eventually, it could cause serious problems with his vision and movement. She said surgery was really the only option. The doctor explained that the surgery would take about 4 hours. She said they would make an opening in Louis's skull and carefully remove the entire tumor. She said the good news was that benign tumors usually came out in one piece and did not spread to other parts of the brain. Kate asked about the recovery time. Dr. Martinez said Louis would need to stay in the hospital for about a week after surgery. Then he would need several weeks at home to fully heal. She said most children recovered very well from this type of surgery and went back to normal activities. William asked about the risks. The doctor was honest and said there was always a small chance of complications. She said there could be bleeding or infection. She said there was also a very small chance that the surgery could affect Louis's speech or movement. But she said these serious complications were rare. Kate asked how soon the surgery needed to happen. Dr. Martinez said they should not wait too long because the tumor was still growing. She said they could schedule it for next week if William and Kate agreed. She said this would give them time to prepare Louis and themselves. After they left the doctor's office, William and Kate walked slowly back to Louis's room. They were both quiet as they tried to process everything they had learned. William felt relieved that it was not cancer, but terrified about brain surgery. Kate said she felt the same way. When they got back to Louis's room, he was playing with toy cars on his bed. He looked up at them with a big smile. He asked what the doctor had said. William and Kate looked at each other. They had practiced what they would say, but it was still hard. Kate sat on the edge of the bed and took Louis's hand. She said the doctors had found out what was making him sick. She said there was something growing in his brain that should not be there. She said it was not the scary kind of growth, but it still needed to come out. Louis asked how they would get it out. William said the doctors would do an operation while he was sleeping. He said when Louis woke up, the thing making him sick would be gone. Louis asked if it would hurt. Kate said the doctors would make sure he did not feel any pain. Louis thought about this for a minute. Then he asked if he could have ice cream after the operation. William and Kate both laughed. It was the first time they had laughed in weeks. William said he could have all the ice cream he wanted. That evening, William called his family to tell them the news. His brother was relieved to hear it was not cancer but worried about the surgery. His parents said they would come to the hospital to be there for the operation. William was grateful for their support. Kate called her parents and her sister. Everyone had the same reaction. They were thankful it was not cancer, but scared about brain surgery. Kate's mother said she would continue praying for Louis. Her father said Louis was strong and would get through this. The next few days passed quickly as they prepared for the surgery. The hospital social worker came to talk to them about what to expect. She gave them books about brain surgery for children. She said it was normal to be scared, but that Louis was in excellent hands. Dr. Martinez introduced them to the surgeon who would operate on Louis. His name was Dr. Peterson, and he was a kind man with gray hair. He had been doing this type of surgery for 20 years. He showed them pictures of the brain and explained exactly what he would do, Dr. Peterson said. He had done this same operation over 100 times. He said the tumor was in a good location where he could reach it easily. He said he was confident about removing it completely. William and Kate felt a little better talking to him. The nurses started preparing Louis for surgery. They explained everything they were doing so he would not be scared. They let him choose what flavor medicine he wanted to make him sleepy. Louis chose strawberry because it was his favorite. Kate packed a bag with Louis's favorite things for after the surgery. She put in his stuffed elephant and some books. She packed comfortable pajamas and his favorite blanket from home. She wanted him to have familiar things around him when he woke up. William tried to stay busy so he would not think too much about the surgery. He talked to his boss about taking more time off work. He made sure their other children were doing okay at their grandparents' house. He tried to handle all the practical things so Kate could focus on Louis. The night before surgery, William could not sleep at all. He kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Tried to stay positive, but his mind kept going too. Dark places. Prayed more than he had ever prayed in his life. Kate was lying in the chair next to Louis's bed. She was watching him sleep and thinking about the next day. She was scared but also hopeful. Doctor had said the tumor was not cancer. That was the most important thing. Now they just had to get through the surgery. Louis woke up early on the morning of surgery. He seemed excited rather than scared. He asked if today was the day the doctors would fix his brain. Kate said yes, and that she and William would be waiting for him when he woke up. Louis said he was brave and ready. The surgical team came to get Louis at 7 in the morning. He was sleepy from the medicine but still alert. He hugged William and Kate and said he loved them. Kate told him she loved him too and that everything would be okay. William watched his son disappear behind the operating room doors and felt his heart break a little. Now came the hardest part. The waiting for hours felt like 4 days. William and Kate sat in the surgical waiting room, surrounded by other worried families. Everyone was quiet and lost in their own fears. All they could do was wait and hope that their little boy would be okay. The surgical waiting room felt different when your own child was behind those doors. William had been in this room many times over the past weeks, but today, everything seemed louder and brighter. Hear each second passing. Kate sat beside him, staring at her hands. It had been 1 hour since they took Louis away. Dr. Peterson had said the surgery would take about 4 hours. William did math in his head. 3 more hours to go, he wondered. What the surgeon was doing right now, he tried not to think about. Louis's head being open and doctors working inside his brain. Kate had not spoken since Louis disappeared behind the operating room doors. She was holding Louis's stuffed elephant tight against her chest. William could see tears on her cheeks, but she was not making any noise. He put his arm around her, but she seemed far away. A nurse came to update them after the first hour. She said everything was going well, and the surgery was proceeding as planned. She said Dr. Peterson would send updates every hour. William felt a little bit of relief, but it did not last long. There were still 3 more hours to worry about. William's parents arrived during the second hour. His mother hugged Kate, and his father shook William's hand. They brought sandwiches and coffee that nobody wanted. William's mother sat next to Kate and held her hand. Sometimes having other people around made the waiting easier. Kate finally spoke for the first time in 2 hours. She said she kept thinking about Louis being scared when he woke up. She said she hoped he would not be in too much pain. William's mother said children were stronger than adults thought and Louis would be okay. The second update came right on time. The nurse said Dr. Peterson had found the tumor and was working on removing it. She said everything looked good so far. William felt his heart beating fast. Kate asked if there had been any problems. The nurse said no problems at all. During the third hour, more family members arrived. Kate's parents came with her sister. William's brother David brought his wife. Soon the small waiting area was full of people who loved Louis. Everyone was trying to stay positive, but William could see the worry in all their eyes. Kate started pacing around the waiting room. She said she could not sit still anymore. William understood. He felt like he had too much energy and nowhere to put it. He went to get coffee. He did not want just to have something to do with his hands. The third update was the best one yet. The nurse said Dr. Peterson had successfully removed the entire tumor. She said it came out in one piece, just like they had hoped. She said the surgeon was now closing up, and Louis should be done in about an hour. William felt like crying with relief. Kate hugged everyone in the waiting room. She said she could not believe it was almost over. William's mother said she had been praying the whole time, and God had answered their prayers. William was not sure about God, but he was grateful that things were going well. The fourth hour felt like the longest, even though they knew it was almost over. Kate kept checking the clock every few minutes. William tried to read a magazine, but he kept reading the same sentence over and over. Everyone in the waiting room was quiet with anticipation. Finally, Dr. Peterson came through the doors. He was still wearing his surgical clothes and had a tired but happy expression. He said the surgery had been a complete success. He said the tumor was exactly what they thought it was, and he had removed every bit of it. Kate started crying again. But this time, they were happy tears. William stood up and shook the doctor's hand. He asked when they could see Louis. Dr. Peterson said Louis was in recovery now. They could see him in about an hour when he woke up. The doctor explained that Louis would be sleepy and confused when he first woke up. He said this was normal after brain surgery. Said Louis might have a headache and feel sick to his stomach. But he said these symptoms would go away in a day or two. William asked about long-term effects. Dr. Peterson said he did not expect any permanent problems. Said Louis should make a full recovery and be able to do all the things normal children do. He said the headaches and dizziness should be completely gone. Kate asked about the tumor coming back. The doctor said benign tumors like this one almost never came back once they were completely removed. He said they had gotten it all, and Louis should not have to worry about this problem again. The recovery room was quiet and dimly lit. Louis looked so small in the big hospital bed. His head was wrapped in white bandages, and there were tubes and wires connected to machines. But he was breathing on his own, and his face looked peaceful. A recovery nurse named Sandra was taking care of Louis. She said he had done very well during the surgery. She said his vital signs were all normal, and he should wake up soon. She said it was good for him to hear his parents' voices even while he was sleeping. William and Kate sat on either side of Louis's bed. Kate held his hand and whispered that she loved him. William talked quietly about all the fun things they would do when Louis got better. They would go to the zoo and the playground and eat ice cream every day. After about 30 minutes, Louis started to move a little. He made small noises, and his eyes fluttered. Sandra said he was starting to wake up. Kate leaned closer and said, "Louis," named softly. His eyes opened slowly, and he looked around confused. Louis tried to speak, but his voice was very quiet and scratchy. He said his head hurt. Sandra gave him some medicine through his fore and said that would help. Louis asked where he was and what happened. Kate explained that the operation was over and he was going to be okay. Louis reached up and touched the bandages on his head. He looked scared and confused. William said the bandages were protecting his head while it healed. He said the doctors had taken out the thing that was making him sick, and now he would feel better. The nurse said Louis was responding very well. She said his speech was clear and he was moving normally. She said these were all good signs, that the surgery had not affected any important parts of his brain. William felt enormous relief hearing this. Over the next few hours, Louis became more alert. He asked for water and said he was hungry. The nurse said this was excellent news. She said when patients wanted to eat it, meant they were recovering well. Kate felt hopeful for the first time in weeks. Dr. Peterson came to check on Louis that evening. He said everything looked perfect. He said the surgery had gone exactly as planned and Louis was healing well. He said they would need to stay in the hospital for about a week, but then Louis could go home. That night, William and Kate took turns staying with Louis. He slept most of the time, but when he was awake, he seemed like himself. He asked for his favorite books and wanted to know when his brother and sister could visit. These normal requests made his parents feel like their son was really going to be okay. Louis was still tired and had some pain, but the worst was behind them. The tumor was gone and would not come back. The headaches that had started this whole nightmare were already getting better. William and Kate finally allowed themselves to believe that their family was going to be whole and healthy again. 1 week after surgery, Louis was getting stronger every day. The bandages on his head were smaller now, and his hair was starting to grow back where they had shaved it. He was eating normal food again and asking to go home constantly. William and Kate were amazed at how quickly children could heal. Dr. Peterson came to see Louis every morning. He was very pleased with how well Louis was recovering. He said the swelling in his brain had gone down and all the tests showed normal results. He said Louis could probably go home in 2 more days if he continued to improve. Kate had barely left the hospital room since the surgery. She wanted to be there every time Louis woke up. She helped him walk to the bathroom and made sure he took his medicine on time. William tried to convince her to go home and rest, but she refused to leave. Louis was bored being in the hospital. He had watched all his favorite movies twice and was tired of playing the same games. He kept asking when his brother and sister could visit. William said they would come see him tomorrow when he was feeling even better. The physical therapist came to work with Louis every day. She helped him walk around the hospital floor to make sure his balance was normal. At first, Louis was wobbly and held onto the walls, but each day he got steadier on his feet. By the end of the week, he was walking normally. Kate noticed that Louis had not complained about headaches since the surgery. Before the operation, he had headaches every single day. Now, he said his head felt fine, except for some soreness where they had done the surgery. The medicine that had been making him sick was finally gone. On the day before Louis was supposed to go home, Dr. Peterson brought wonderful news. All the final tests showed that Louis's brain was healing perfectly. There was no sign of any remaining tumor and no complications from the surgery. Said Louis could go home the next morning. Kate started crying when she heard this news, but these were happy tears. William hugged her and then hugged Louis. Louis asked if this meant he could play soccer again. Dr. Peterson laughed, said yes, but he would need to wait a few more weeks for his head to heal completely. That evening, William's brother and sister-in-law brought Louis's brother and sister to visit. The older children had been staying with their grandparents and missed their little brother very much. When they saw Louis sitting up in bed and smiling, they both started crying. Louis was excited to see his siblings. He told them all about the hospital and the nice nurses. He showed them his scar, which was healing well. His brother said it looked cool and made Louis look like a superhero. Louis liked this idea very much. The family spent the evening together in the hospital room. They ordered pizza and watched a movie. It felt almost normal except for the hospital setting. William looked around at his complete family. Felt more grateful than he had ever felt in his life. Kate packed all of Louis's belongings that night. Over the weeks, they had accumulated many toys and books and clothes. She carefully folded everything and put it in bags. She wanted to be ready to leave first thing in the morning. Louis slept well that night. He was excited about going home and seeing his own room again. He had been asking about his dog and his toys in his own bed. William and Kate barely slept because they were so excited about taking their son home healthy. The next morning came. Slowly, Louis woke up early and asked if it was time to go home yet. The nurses came to remove his IV and do final checks. Dr. Peterson signed the discharge papers and gave William and Kate instructions for Louis's care at home. The doctor said Louis should rest for the next 2 weeks. He could do quiet activities, like reading and drawing, but no running or rough play. He said Louis could go back to school in 1 month if he continued to heal well. He said the headaches should never come back. William went to get the car while Kate helped Louis get dressed. In regular clothes, Louis was so happy to wear his own pajamas instead of hospital gowns. He said he never wanted to wear a hospital gown again. Kate laughed and said she hoped he would never have to. The wheelchair ride to the car felt like a victory parade. The nurses who had taken care of Louis came to say goodbye. They had grown to love this brave little boy over the past month. Louis hugged each one and thanked them for helping him get better. Louis was quiet during the car ride home, looked out the window at all the familiar sights he had not seen in weeks. He pointed out his school and his favorite park. Everything looked the same but somehow different because he had been away so long. When they pulled into their driveway, Louis saw a big banner hanging across the front porch. It said, "Welcome home, Louis," in bright colors. His grandparents and aunt and uncle were waiting on the porch with balloons and flowers. Louis started bouncing in his car seat with excitement. Their dog came running as soon as Louis got out of the car. The dog had missed his little boy and was so happy to see him. Louis hugged the dog carefully because his head was still tender. William was amazed that just a month ago, they did not know if Louis would ever come home. The house felt different. 2. Kate had cleaned everything and put fresh flowers in every room. William's mother had cooked all of Louis's favorite foods. The refrigerator was full of ice cream, just like William had promised. Everything was perfect for Louis's homecoming. That afternoon, Louis wanted to see his room. Everything was exactly where he had left it. His toys were on the shelf and his books were by his bed. He lay down on his own mattress and said it felt so much better than the hospital bed. Kate sat beside him and smoothed his hair. Louis asked if the scary part was really over. William said yes, the tumor was gone and would never come back. Louis said he was glad because he never wanted to be that sick again. Kate said he was going to grow up healthy and strong and do amazing things. Over the next few days, Louis got stronger and more like his old self. He played quietly with his toys and helped Kate cook dinner. He called his friends from school and told them about his adventure in the hospital. He was proud of his scar and called it his battle wound. William watched his son playing in the backyard and could hardly believe how close they had come to losing him. The past month felt like a nightmare that was finally over. Louis was home and healthy, and the headaches were gone forever. Kate found herself crying happy tears several times a day. She would watch Louis doing normal things like eating breakfast or playing with his toys and feel overwhelmed with gratitude. Their family had been through the worst possible fear and come out stronger on the other side. Louis quickly returned to his normal, cheerful personality. He laughed and played and got into trouble just like any 7-year-old boy. The only reminder of his ordeal was a small scar on his head that would fade with time. But the memory of how precious life was would stay with his parents forever.